Hey friend, welcome to the next installment in our string theory video. We're talking about string comparisons today. Quick reminder, grab this cheat sheet. I've made it for you. It's free. It's in the link in the description below. All the string methods we're talking about today, and on the back and a whole page dedicated to regex, which is going to make your life awesome as a developer. So go get that. But right now we're going to get right into today's demo, which is string comparison. So stepping right into the code, we've got a string called this is a string, and we're going to spend the first chunk talking about string equality. And I grew up in Java, and I love C#. It's my favorite language now, but for those of you who might switch to Java, it's worth talking about a couple things. So I'm going to just slow down a little bit here and make sure that things are clear, because there are some differences between those two languages. You hear people say that, C# and Java are similar, and they are. They're very, very similar. This is one of those areas where they differ. So here we've got this Boolean variable. It's called a case-sensitive compare. As you can imagine, the thing that's going to happen afterward is comparing of the strings where the case matters, right? So I've got my string. This is a string. I've put in another one. It's just a string literal. Everything matches, right? So they are not the same string, meaning they're not taking up the same places in memory, but the contents of where the strings are in memory, the contents are the same. And if I go look at the equals operator, I'm just going to click on this double equals, hit F12, and I can see that it took me right to this string comparison file. This is all open source .NET code. You can go peek in here if you want. But there is an operator for the double equals. Check it out, right? And it's basically redefining what the double equal operator does. It's kind of overridden it, so to speak. There's two strings, one on the left, one on the right, and all it's doing is saying string.equals, and it's passing the left and right in there. So just wanted to bring attention to that, because in Java, the double equals is meant to mean, are these two the same object? Not are the contents of the object the same, but are they the same object in memory? So since we're in C#, we do this compare, and it returns true because the contents are the same. So in Java, that would not be true. So, but we're using the .equals method in Java. That does the same thing as what C# does. The .equals, it actually compares the contents. And so again, just like the double equals here, the .equals method on this string returns true for that case-sensitive compare. Okay, now we're going to compare with this one. It's all uppercase. We would expect that this is false. Very good. Okay, if you want to do case-insensitive compares, we'll look at the next examples for that. So that's what we've got next actually here. So here's this is a string, and we want to compare it with this is a string, all uppercase. But what we do is we pass this other parameter called string comparison. It's an enum, and I'm using current culture ignore case. There's a few options there. In most cases, the current culture ignore case will work, especially if you're in the US or an English speaking country. So now we're doing a case insensitive compare, and as you might expect, this comparison should return true, that they are equal when you ignore the cases. So this string comparison thing is used in all of these other comparison methods that we're going to look at. So I just wanted to touch on that right away. You'll see that coming back over and over. Contain, starts with, ends with, index of, last index of, compare equals. They all use that string comparison. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to actually look at the compare method, right? So that kind of gets into what the title was called. String compare. All it does is it returns an integer that indicates the relative position of the strings in sort order. So if the strings are equal, the comparison will return 0. if the first string is less than the second string, or that it comes first in the sort order, you'll get a negative number, and vice versa. If it comes after the second string in the sort order, compare returns positive. Okay, don't have to remember that. We've got examples to look at. So got a couple strings here. We've got lowercase apple, lowercase orange, and an uppercase orange. And in tongue-in-cheek fashion, we're going to compare apples to apples and oranges and see what we get. So first thing we're doing is we're comparing the lowercase apple with itself. Okay, so we said if the two strings are the same in sort order, this should return a 0. And indeed, when you compare the apple and apple, you get a 0. Okay, next thing, we're going to compare the apple with the orange. So we know that the apple becomes before the orange in alphabetical order, so we get a -1. And likewise, if we reverse the order, we say compare the orange to the apple. Well, the orange comes after the apple, so the result should be positive. Indeed, it's a 1. Now we'll compare our orange and our orange uppercase. What do you think is going to happen here? What do you think is going to happen? Well, interesting. We got a -1. Even though they're the same, the lowercase came before the uppercase. So it's a non-zero due to the mismatched casing. As of .NET 6, the default behavior of compare is to use string comparison .current culture. So it's not ignoring the case, but like in my operating system, English United States, lowercase comes before uppercase in the lexicographical sort order. It's just a fancy word for the way characters are ordered in our language in this country. So now, remember, earlier I said the string comparison that we were talking about up here, it's used everywhere. So here's an example where we can pass that into the compare method. So we're going to compare oranges and oranges, but the second one is uppercase, and we're going to say, hey, don't worry about the casing. Just pretend like the cases are the same, and then now we get a 0. It sees that they're the same. You can see how that's again used. Next method we'll look at is the contains method. So we're going to do a case sensitive and then a case insensitive contains again. So first of all, we've got my string. It says this is a string. Does it contain a lowercase string? Well, yes, it does. And how about does it contain uppercase string? But again, we pass current culture ignore case. Well, both of those should return true. So you can see that, pretty self-explanatory. You can also compare strings to see if they start with or end with certain phrases. So here we can see that it starts with this was true. If we modify the casing again, we've got another overload where we can call current culture ignore case, and that's true as well. Same example here with just with ending, right? So we have our string. This is a string. It ends with string. And ignoring the cases, that returns true as well. Okay, next one. This is a really handy one to know. So we've got these two methods, is null or empty and is null or whitespace. They're kind of two versions of the same thing, with is null or whitespace kind of having additional functionality. So here's what we've got. We've got the empty string. We have a string that's set to null. And then I have another string that is purely whitespace, right? I've got character return, tab, new line, and space. If you don't know those special characters, you can check out the first video in this playlist. So null or empty, well, this is the empty string. We'd expect that's true. Now we're going to call is null or empty on the null string. Again, that should return true. And now we're going to call is null or empty on this white space, and that returns false, right? It's not null, it's not empty. It's actually, it has stuff in it. But sometimes you might want to, let's say you want to validate input for a form or something. And, you know, if somebody had put a space character. You might just want to consider it empty for all practical purposes. Well, this is where string is null or whitespace can come in. And this is going to return true for the empty string, for the null string, and the string that contains whitespace. So super common methods for comparing stuff. That's all we've got today for string comparisons. Again, reminder, just grab this cheat sheet. It's going to help you out. Print it. You don't have to remember all this stuff. You'll eventually memorize it someday, but until then, grab this reference. Just keep it by your computer and have it just in case. I made it for you. Again, all the source code is coming with it, so we click that link. I'll deliver that to you as well. I'll see you in the next video where we're going to talk about string searching. Hit the like button for me, subscribe if you find content like this helpful, and I'll see you in that next video.